Hello everyone, Pastor Billy here. We're in the midst of a short video devotional series, Help for the Anxious Soul. We're just thinking about some practical tools and practical ways that we can address the anxiety that many of us are feeling to some degree or another in the midst of our uncertain times. And so far we've looked at meditation, the idea of Christian meditation, filling our minds, filling our hearts with what's true, with what we find in God's Word. Last week we looked at surrender, giving ourselves to Jesus, waiting on His provision. And now this week we come to part 3, and the idea is rest. Rest. In many ways, rest is the product of meditation, of filling our hearts and our minds with God's truth and surrendering and giving ourselves to Him. But I want to dig a little deeper into this tool of rest, and specifically, I want you to understand 3 things about rest. And the first is this: that rest is an invitation. At the heart, when we think about rest, we think about invitation. When we remember Jesus' famous words, remember, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. What is that? That's an invitation, right? That's an invitation directly from Jesus. It's that gospel invitation to lay down our burdens, to lay down our anxieties, to lay down our worries, and be restored. Find our rest in Him. And so rest is an invitation. But secondly, not only is rest an invitation, we need to understand that rest requires participation. It requires participation. In other words, we're not completely passive. We actually have something to do, even in the midst of rest. So a number of you at Cornerstone are memorizing with us some or all of Psalm 91. What an incredible psalm, by the way, and not too late to join us in that challenge for the month of May, memorizing all of Psalm 91. But maybe you've already gotten to those first 2 verses. Which is all about rest and our activity of what we're supposed to do. The psalm begins, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty." What's that about? That's about rest, right? Dwelling and abiding. But that involves activity. That involves participation. That we have to enter into that. We have to choose to dwell. We have to enter into that abiding with God. And the psalmist continues, I will say to the Lord, my refuge, my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. That's participation. That's choosing to enter into that rest. So rest is an invitation from Jesus. It involves our participation. And finally, we say gospel rest should lead to restoration. And here's the difference, right, between the rest that the world gives and the rest that Jesus gives. Many of you know that there's a difference between rest and restoration. Sometimes we've rested because we've laid down some work, but we're not truly restored. The rest that we find in the gospel, the rest that we need from the worry, from the anxiety that we experience, leads to restoration, and that's the promise. That's what we hold before us. So there you go, three nuggets for you to hold before yourself as we try to enter into this rest that Jesus gives. It's an invitation, it requires participation, and in the end, it leads to restoration. So that's it. We'll see you next week for the final segment, and which will be Remember. We'll see you then.